this deeply moving conversation, Susannah and I explore the profound lessons of spirituality, self-discovery, and healing. Susannah shares her upbringing, military experience, and encounters with war shaped her perspective, leading to powerful realizations about the nature of ego, forgiveness, and the transformative potential of trauma. Together, we discuss the importance of mindfulness and self-awareness, emphasizing that we are the creators of our own realities. This conversation invites listeners to move beyond fear and competition, embracing love, connection, and a path toward collective awakening and healing. Please welcome Susannah Rose Stokes. Welcome to my show, Susannah.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a delight to be here.
So tell me about your spiritual journey. What brought you to spirituality?
Well, you might say the first thing that brought me to spirituality was what how a lot of us come, which is the initial programming, the initial, this is what you're going to believe in, and this is how you're going to believe it. And my grandfather was a bishop in the Methodist Church, and he was a very formidable force in the Methodist Church during a lot of the integrative times, and he did a lot of work on that in Mississippi. So I saw a lot of the spirituality in action, which was really powerful. And then I started to go to church myself and even explore other churches like the Southern Baptist church system, which is quite the interesting space and environment. And I began to learn that a lot of what I saw embodied in my grandfather and even in like the love in my family was not necessarily what was being taught in the church. There was a lot more hate and hatred and the enemy energy, right? Like us and them. And so that led me really on a deeper journey of questioning, is there a God, and who is God, and what is God, and what is my definition of spirituality, which is really what brought me to my essence of spirituality that I have today.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah, it's funny how like when we understand spirituality, it's with me, I had to lose something to understand it. Like I've had my guides tell me 5 times. They tried 5 times. I just wouldn't listen. Like I fell 27 feet head first. I should have died, but it was like my body left my
Mm,
soul, or yeah, my soul left my body, and then it
mm,
came back in again. And then when I hit the ground, that was when I felt me hit. I felt hitting the ground, but I didn't feel the impact of it. Like it was strange. And the doctor looked at me and said, "How are you still alive? Like, do you know people die from less? Like you fell 27 feet. How? How is this possible? You should have snapped your spine in half." I don't know what to tell you, doc. This my dad was like, you should go buy a lottery ticket right now because no, I shouldn't be having a conversation with you. Like, but it's like, wow. But I didn't pay attention to those messages. And then my mom died, and it was like, no, this time you're paying attention. This time we're gonna wake you up. And it's just right after that, I was still struggling. I didn't understand. Like, I was angry. I was frustrated. But why was I angry? Why was I frustrated? Because I hadn't done any work on me. I just focused on whatever was going around about me, but I never focused on me, and I never really understood what I needed, what I wanted. And I was in a loveless relationship for like 7 years. Didn't even realize I was in it. We were just kind of comfortable with each other and we got complacent. And then it was like, whoa. I was like, okay, we got to stop this. And even then, I was still like angry and didn't have any like remorse for anything. And then it just, after time and just, the biggest thing I noticed when I changed was when I stopped watching television, for one, and when I stopped just focusing on everybody else's reality instead of myself. And I got into journaling, and I've noticed since journaling, like, it's brought so much. And the cool thing about getting to know yourself is you learn so much about yourself. And then it's like you're vibing now at a different vibration. You're light, you're the light in the darkness. And now like when it comes to like being around people and they're angry, it doesn't bother me because I got protection around me. That's the beautiful thing about spirituality. And you were in the war, so you've seen some stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that, I deeply appreciate that that process of coming back to yourself, right? Because as we grow, we are encouraged, just particularly in this culture, in this society that we live in right now, we're encouraged to lose ourselves in everything outside of us. And that's really because we tend to be a more ego driven culture. And I speak about the ego is a very powerful and important part of our reality and a part of being a human. And also, when we only identify with that, we often lose our real, true, centered essence. And I think that that's what led me to war. So, growing up in the South, I looked around me for inspiration of who I was supposed to be. And I was looking externally for who I was supposed to be, trying to make everyone else happy with who they saw, not who I knew I was and who I wanted to be with from within. And so that led me to the military. And I joined the Marine Corps after graduating from the Naval Academy. And that led me toward then being in war quite quickly. Like, I suppose faster than I expected, which is always ironic to me because I'm like, you joined a fighting force, Susannah. What did you expect? And I was one of the few Marines that really didn't want to go to war. And so I ended up there, and there were a few moments, much like your near death experience, that began to really crumble my reality and were clearly the moments that my guides were calling me to be like, wake up, Susannah, wake up. And I had one of those where I did have several near death experiences when I was young. I grew up on a farm and I was a gymnast, so I had a few of those, but I didn't crack then. And then I watched a man be targeted on screen. We're watching one of the drone footages of us following a guy who had just implanted an IED, an improvised explosive device. And in that whole scenario of us targeting him with a missile, I thought to myself, who is this guy? Is he really an enemy? Who is he? He's probably someone's brother, someone's father, maybe someone's son, definitely someone's son, right? And he's just riding on a motorbike, and the likelihood is he was paid and or threatened by the Taliban or Al Qaeda to implant this IED. And I had this moment where it was like, he is not other than me. We are the same. I would have probably made the exact same choice that he did. So why should he be killed for that choice that he was stuck in? And that's when the existential crisis kind of settled in and I began to deconstruct my reality.
Yeah, it's amazing how you talk about that because I did some content the other day on like, are people really the enemy, or are we been told they're the enemy because of our differences in opinions? Like, of course, we're going to have differences in opinions. If we all thought the same, we'd be manipulated, we'd be brainwashed. So it's like you talk about like having like clarity and just understanding that that person is just like me. We're the same. We might have difference in opinions, but I don't want to harm this individual because we don't know his situation. We don't know why he is doing what he's doing. And that goes for each and every one of us. And why wars start, why protests begin. It's like, even the people that are protesting, are they actually protesting because they want to, or are they doing it because they're scared? It's just like you start to think about these things and understand like how the mind works, how the ego works. Because I have lots of experience with ego because I let it control me my entire life. And I didn't realize it controlled me my entire life until I found journaling. And once I found journaling, I started to like understand it. And then I started to communicate with the subconscious, the higher self, with the mind, and understanding that I had to let go of my ego because it's blocking me from my intuitive gifts. It's blocking all of us from our intuitive gifts because we're all intuitively gifted, but we don't see it because we don't know, because we were trained not to know. We were trained to be afraid. We were trained to fight one another. We were trained to compete with each other. Like I did a seminar because I was like, hey, Tony Robbins, why not try Tony Robbins? I went in his seminar. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I know the man's got lots of energy, but I own you? Like, no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that one bit. That's not that's not fair. Like, why would you say that to a person? You don't own them. We don't own we don't own nothing. The universe is our gift, is our guidance. We're blessed, we're loved, not the other. And it's just why? Why do we have to resort to violence? Why do we have to? Because we're told to, we're trained to. And we don't realize this because we're afraid. And what fear is an illusion. But we're not taught this. As children, our parents yell at us. That traumatizes us right away. And it's like, oh, okay, I gotta follow this order now. And it's like now you compete with each other. And you don't realize you're competing with each other because the ego is taken over you.
I
Powerful.
so appreciate your message on competition and comparison because I've started to realize how deeply like programmed I am. And if I'm programmed, then I'm sure, everybody else is on some level, right? How deeply programmed I am for competition and for comparison and comparing myself with other things. And that really is the nature of war, of conflict. And as I've gone through this process of deconstructing who I am and then founding Metamorphosis, which is our organization that works with plant medicine and helps people realize these things, in order to do a lot of the technology that we do at Metamorphosis, we have to fundamentally begin to believe in heart coherence and co creation, which means that you are no different from me. I am no different from him. And we are all one entity, right? And also, instead of comparison, it's mirroring. It's just mirroring. It's just you are a reflection of me versus something that I am here to compare myself to and then put myself in above or below you, right? And getting out of that programming, I mean, it's the fundamental seed of capitalism, of most of our economic systems, of most of our businesses. It's how we operate in so much of our culture. And I mean, sometimes, we all kind of feel like hypocrites in the process of spiritual awakening because it's like, I'm teaching this technology, and also I know that I have this programming living within myself. And how do I operate in a sort of non-binary way and non-dualistic way in which I own that you are no better than I and I am no better than you. And there is no such thing as better. And there is no such thing as other. But that is very, very difficult until we start to think with our heart. And I think that that really is the key to it, right? Shifting from mind thinking, because the mind wants to figure out the how and kind of puzzle everything together and put it in a hierarchy so that it can logically understand. But the heart doesn't need to do any of that. The heart just feels its way and it says, is this aligned with love? Yes, no. Is it in the present moment? Great. That's it, which is for me revolutionary.
Totally. The whole thing is revolutionary. We're just needing to understand it, right? But to understand it, we have to avoid distractions. But we have so many distractions because they're there for a purpose. They're there for a reason. So they keep us from understanding that we have these abilities. We are gifted. We don't need to kill one another. We don't need to compete with each other because we love each other. But we weren't taught that because we were taught that this person, because they're a different race, they're the enemy, or this person, because they're a different sexuality, they're the enemy. They're the enemy. It's like know your enemy, like Rage Against the Machine had in their songs. Like they had the message. They already had the message. They did it in a very aggressive way, but they knew the message. They knew what was going on. But we don't see that. We just see it as music, but we don't really understand it. And we just don't understand anything because we're brainwashed. We're manipulated. And we don't realize it.
And what's interesting is you could try to point the finger on who's brainwashing us, right?
We
But
are.
it's us.
Yeah, we are.
We're doing it to ourselves. There is no other thing that's out there that's creating this these belief systems that are so deeply rooted, they now are just living within us. And also, they're living within us, I believe, as the portal to love, right? It's got to get really uncomfortable. We've got to make ourselves so uncomfortable living in fear that we finally go, oh my gosh, love is the only thing. That's the only thing that's going to solve this. Forgiveness, mercy, right? Imagine if on the battlefield we stood up and we said all at once, I forgive you guys. Truce, surrender, I forgive you. That's it. And it seems so ridiculous to even think about that. But truly, that's what we have to do especially in our relationships. And one by one, as we deprogram ourselves and reconnect with that energy of love and that coherence of really shifting from seating ourselves in the mind to seating ourselves in the heart, and then connecting the heart to the mind, then we have this ability to really say, yeah, you who wronged me, or you who I once thought was an enemy or I compared myself to, I forgive you. And not only that, I forgive myself. I forgive the parts of myself that participated in that conflict and in that violence. But this is a shift, and this is something that I've been working on. We've been working on at Metamorphosis, because as a veteran, I see a lot, I'm friends with and I'm close to a lot of other veterans. And I've noticed that the shift from war to peace, just a frequency shift within the body, is just as intense, if not more, than the shift of being a peaceful, loving, innocent child baby into like all the trauma it took to convince you to go to war and kill people. It's the same level of difficulty to go the opposite direction, to go from the quote brainwashing and the war frequency into peace again. And there's a real process for it, because the untangling of believing that there is no enemy, that is highly uncomfortable for people who have believed that there is an enemy, and for thousands of years. Yeah.
Totally. I know it's well up. People die for this reason, right? Because they don't want secrets getting out. Like in the book, Jesus and the Essenes, like that entire village that trained Jesus Christ was assassinated because they wouldn't give up the secrets, and they smiled as they died because they weren't going to give this up. Like, and we will never give this up. Like, and people are going to continue. Like, people have so many people. Like, suicide is not a thing. Like, I'm sorry, people don't just randomly commit suicide. They were killed because they had this knowledge, they had this wisdom, but they weren't protected because they didn't believe in their angels, and the angels would have protected them. Because when you're vibing on a different frequency, nobody can touch you. It's an illusion. Fear is an illusion
But
that we create.
if you don't have that as even an archetype, right? Or as an option of, hey, these are the tools for energetic, emotional, physical protection from these other dimensions. If you're completely cut off from that, then existing in peace feels impossible, because it feels like you have to protect yourself all the time. You can't quote give it up to God, let go and let God, right? And that in and of itself is that process of shifting from war to peace, is the gentle and sometimes not so gentle releasing of my own protection to something much bigger and greater, and just allowing and receiving the protection of that entity or those beings, or that fully capable, quote, omniscient God or goddess and goddess. But if you don't have that as an option, then you're going to go back to what you were told in your childhood, which is really existing in fear, because you personally have to always be protecting yourself. And there is no other thing that's out there looking out for you. That's
Yeah,
scary.
yeah,
It's
it
a
is
scary place to live.
totally.
Yeah.
What I learned with myself, I created my reality. So I told myself I was going to get bullied. I told myself I was going to have anxiety. I told myself I wasn't going to do good in school. I did all these things, but I blamed others. But it was me that was controlling the simulation. Like, this is all it is. It's just a simulation. It's a 3D dimensional world that we don't understand because we don't believe in stuff like this, because we believe it's all in movies. But here's the kicker. This is the movie, your life. It's your book. That's why I wrote the book, Unknown Enemy, the enemy within, fear, our greatest opponent, because that was my enemy, was fear. And we all write our books. We all have our chapters. We don't even realize it. Even when you start journaling, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a book. But this is
Yes.
going to be my guide. So that's what I take it at. Like, I'll even catch myself, like, because I didn't write the book. My higher self wrote the book, because all these brilliant ideas that people have, they don't come from them. They come from intuition. They come from your higher self. They come from God. They come from our angels. They come from somewhere. And it's up to you to decide with what you do with it. And me, because my fiance was reading my book, she's like, how do you not remember this? I'm like, I just can't. I just wrote the book. And then I'll catch myself going through the book, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like this. It's in the book. Okay, it's in the book. What?
Already in the book.
I wrote the guide for myself.
Andrew, have you seen The Never-Ending Story?
Absolutely.
Of course you have. Well, the reason I mean, I am like in awe of your share here, because first of all, I named the father of this beautiful baby that I just had, and I named our son Atreyu. And Atreyu is that little warrior prince in the movie who is trying to tell Bastian, the other boy, the boy in the quote real world, that it's actually his story, and he's writing it as he's reading it. And of course the princess, and when I was very young, oh my gosh, I wanted to be that empress so badly. I was like, that's who I want to be. And at the very end, Bastian, you can save us. And that's because the nothing was really fear. The nothing, this villain creature, was fear, and it was causing people to stop believing in, quote, imagination, which you and I know to be divine intuition and connection and source, right? But they make this beautiful, that story is so powerful because they suggest that exactly what you're saying is real. That the more that fear creeps in and says, no, you cannot create that thing, or no, the story is just being written and you have no control over it and you have no agency in this, the more the world gets dark and all of the beautiful things start to float away and be destroyed until you come back to love and belief in yourself and in the higher thing, realizing that in fact, you don't have to believe in the nothing at all. You can believe in everything. You can believe in whatever you want.
That's right.
So I love that. I love that you
Because
use your journaling in that way.
it's your reality, right? And the lady that was just on my show before you was telling me about like forgiving energies as well. So not only can you like forgive the person, but you can forgive the energy. And there's like, you'll even go around people and they'll be off around you, but that's because you're vibing at a different frequency. So they're intimidated by you and they don't even realize that it's happening. And these are like the energy vampires. These are the ones that like are so lost and so down in that sadness and that deep despair of fear, anxiety, depression, but they all don't realize that it's all up here. And I tell that every day in my content. I'm like, just try meditating. Even if you don't meditate, just try something that involves getting away from things that distract you. Get away from the noise. Because the noise, I noticed it now, especially with journaling a lot and spending more time in the quiet. It's like loud winds, like something out of this world. Like it's like you're in a hurricane, but it's in your mind. And the second that wind goes away, that's when the messages start coming in. That's when the ideas start coming in. That's when the ideas that were not serving me are leaving. But
It's
to
a
do
real
that,
concerted, it's a concerted effort. And this is one of the things that we teach a lot at Metamorphosis is the value of integration. And we call it integration, but even in the Christian church, it was just like living your life like a daily prayer, right? It's consistently coming back to your highest self. And the only way that you will consistently come back to that connection is, like what you said, by reducing and or completely getting rid of the noise around you. And of course, noise is everywhere. I mean, it's visual noise, it's like audio noise, it's energetic noise, there are vibrations that are all over this planet, and it is a hot mess. So in order to fully integrate, like you can go, and we work with plant medicine, you can go up into these high frequencies and have these beautiful experiences with angels and the divine and the plants themselves and earth. But if you're not then coming back and visiting that frequency again on a regular basis, and what I've now discovered is the amount of integration that I was doing before, where it was like, I'll do it once a day or I'll do my morning ritual. That's not enough. That is not enough. It needs to be, like the Islamic community prays multiple times a day. And these days, I understand. I get it. I completely understand why a faith would ask you to come back to your faith, to your highest self, to your connection with the divine 3, 4, 5 times per day, and even more. And even better is if you can make every moment so present in your own world that eating is a living prayer, that showering and cleansing yourself is a living prayer, that looking into the face of your beloved or someone you care about is a living prayer. If you can do that, that's when the noise starts to lessen and you realize that you really are protected and you can live in your own little beautiful bubble of bliss. And then you can really hold that frequency. But I love that idea of forgiving energies in other people and around you, because I think that forgiveness is one of the key components to how we can reduce that noise these days in our lives.
absolutely. It's going to take time. And that's what I put in my content every day. That like, we're here, we're listening. You want to reach out, I'm here. You want to talk, let's talk. I'm always up for ears, and that's what my purpose is. This is what I'm passionate. This is what the guides have told the lady that was just on my show. She was like channeling. She was like, "Keep doing it. Keep and get that book out now." I was like, all right, I'll do that." Like, so I was like, we always have people like coaching us, and that's the cool thing about spirituality is like I have a life coach, and he was like, "Man, keep doing what you're doing. Like, just keep doing it." And I found now, like, my higher self is like, "I want you meditating before you do anything, and just like be mindful of everything." So like I've been practicing mindfulness because I had a fellow on my show. He wrote a book on mindfulness because he did it his entire life. So I was brushing my teeth this morning, but I wasn't brushing it like I normally do. I was like feeling the bristles, feeling like the motion, feeling everything. And then I was drinking a cup of tea and I was like, oh, this is nice. Like it's just like the warmth in your hands and like the soothing taste in your mouth and how delicious it is. And then I was out like cleaning the snow because we got a ton of snow here because it's Alberta, so whatever. So I was out there like just cleaning off my vehicle and I was like going, and it was freezing out. Like it's minus 30 here, and I didn't find it cold. Like my face was like completely on fire, but I was in the motion. I was in the zone, and that's when my higher self was like, become mindful. Like let it be. Just be part of it. And then I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts, and Alan Watts was beautiful man. Like just the
Amazing.
messages he would just, and it's like there is no such thing as thing. It's form or space. And I'm like, so it's like the floors we walk on, that's form, and and I wouldn't exist. Like I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a background. You would see the headphones and the hat, but you wouldn't see the rest of me. So I was like, dang, that's cool.
And that's what we came here to be, right? Is to
Yeah.
be in this quote struggle of the human existence of embodying our spiritual self here and slowly but surely learning how to raise the vibration, but you have to do it. It's like this like weird game that we created for ourselves. We're like, let's see how we can raise our vibration but make everything really dense, make it super dense, and make it take a long 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 time to change anything, and also change things all the time and make them change, and then do your best to let them change in the most positive and wonderful ways possible.
Love it. Yeah.
And that is so wild. It's such an incredible experiment to be part of this beautiful earth and in this human body, especially at this particular time when we're experiencing this mass awakening.
Yeah, no, 2025 is gonna like shock a lot of people. Like a lot of people are, it's already starting to happen. You could see it. Even like you'll see people like quit their jobs. You'll see people walk away from sports. You'll see all this start to evolve or unravel. Sorry. Everybody will just start unifying with each other, and united we stand, divided we fall. Well, there's no more division. Division will be a thing of the past. There'll still be, you'll have to have the yin and the yang because you still got to have good and bad because you got to have balance because we all know what happens if we don't have balance. We start from square one again because we got to learn over and over again because we've lived how many lives because we don't realize that we're immortal, for our soul's immortal,
Hmm.
but we don't see
That's
that.
why it's called the never ending story.
That's right. Yeah, our story. Yeah, the
It
book.
never ends.
And you mentioned you were channeling a book too. So I mean, I'm intrigued to hear what your
Yes.
story is going to be about, right?
Yes. Well, something that we've seen a lot in our containers at Metamorphosis is shame. And the shame, and to me, because I see as an energy worker, as an energy priestess, I see the vibrations of our society and our collective. And what I'm noticing is that our average frequency that we exist at right now, because we're in the birth canal we're in it, right, is shame. And really, that's a very, very low frequency, all things considered, if you quote unquote compare it to other frequencies. And it's a very low frequency. And also, it's the portal for our awakening. And what I've noticed is that men tend to hold more of the densities of shame than women. Women work through it either faster or we have less of it in our bodies, partly because we have a moon cycle that clears things out regularly. And we also birth children, which often, I mean, for my birth, I hemorrhaged 2 liters of blood. So a lot of stuff went out with that, right? But men don't have some natural form of clearing the sacral energy center. So it just sits there. And so this shame is existing in our society, and I'm channeling a book that is called Waking Up Kings. And really, it's all about the process. There's elements of the frequency of war to peace in it, because all of us, but men in particular, have been attuned with the frequency of war, and to encourage them to come into peace, much like you, it might take 5 wake up calls, right? Might take a minute. But I've also noticed that in the process of waking up our kings, because us as women, we are craving kings in this world. We need that masculine energy. The divine feminine is deeply wanting and calling the divine masculine in. I, as a woman, have to wake myself up first. And so it's really waking up kings is all about queens waking themselves up and each other up, and then going and helping these beautiful divine male beings come into the fullness of their power. And the portal to that is to integrate shame, and a lot of that looks like sexual assault. There's so much more incest that we don't realize, and childhood sexual assault, especially of men and boys, than we talk about. And it's something that I learned as I was a victim advocate in the Marine Corps. And I just began to understand that this process is something that our entire, it's like everything is kind of hinging on men waking up. And so it's one reason why I really appreciate and am deeply grateful for the work and the voice that you share in the world, because we deeply need more of this. Like the fact that you journal is music to my ears, because I have literally suggested journaling to I don't know how many men, and probably 80% of them will be like, "Oh, I don't do that." And I'm like, well, you didn't yesterday, but you're going to start today and see how it benefits you. So there is a process for it. And this book is going to be an ode to the balancing and the harmonization of the masculine and feminine. Yeah.
Love it.
So
Love the
that's,
energy. Love the vibe. It's going to be beautiful. And keep pushing the men to journal.
yes.
Definitely keep
Yeah.
it like it's good. It's kind of like a self-reflection every day. And also meditation I found is just phenomenal because it just gets all that garbage out of your head and the clutter and all the noise and the distractions and the me like idea, the ego, all of it just gone. Like it just I know it's there and I know it's always going to be there, but I know I can also avoid it and detach
Yeah.
myself from it. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And it'll take time with everyone because nobody knows about this. Nobody will know about this until they either lose something. And even though I've learned about challenges too, challenges are a good thing because if I hadn't have found my trauma, if I hadn't have created my anxiety, I never would have started this podcast. I never would have wrote this book. I never would have found my beautiful fiance. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today without my trauma. So in my opinion, my trauma is a blessing in disguise. And I am so grateful for my trauma and I'm grateful for what it's brought me. And I embrace it and I own it and I take full responsibility because I created it. And that's the thing. We just don't take responsibility for what we do. We don't take accountability for what we do because we want to pass the buck. It's like
Well, we've
you
been
work at a
taught,
coworker.
we've been taught that that's the way to do it. Because if it's your fault, then the guilt and the shame, it's touched right in your body, and you're like, then it's me and I'm the one that's wrong. And of course we have this whole fundamental concept of original sin, which blows your mind, that says you are fundamentally wrong as a human being. Are you out of your mind? What a weird concept that is. And so I understand why people avoid and push away the ownership. And of course, and stepping from victim mentality into creator consciousness. And also, like you said, by the grace of trauma. Like trauma has led us, it is the portal to your greatest manifestation of who you are in this lifetime. So embrace it and let it be your fault. Let yourself be the one that's, ostracized for a minute from those organizations, because your isolation from those organizations is going to turn you in a different direction toward the true soul family that's there waiting for you.
Well, this has been such a wonderful interview, Susanna. I'm so pleased and grateful to have met you, and I wish you nothing but much love and continued success on your journey.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
As this conversation comes to an end, Susanna and I leave you with a powerful reminder. Healing is a journey that requires mindfulness, self-awareness, and a willingness to embrace love over fear. By understanding that we shape our own realities and choosing forgiveness, we unlock the transformative power of trauma. If this discussion resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on how you can move towards a mindful and connected life. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, continue to embrace your path of growth, awakening, and healing. Much love to you all.